You too, people. Neo Cards Comics here. We knew it was only a matter of time. All those months and years talking about repacks and how they have been the driving, really, force behind the sports card world and Pokemon world now. For the better part of a few years, people were like, they're not that big of a deal. You want to know how profitable repacks must be? About a month ago, we did this video. Fanatics entering the sports card repack space with Insta-Rips. There was this little blurb of a website was all we had to go on. That video was, I don't know the exact date, but it says January 23rd. So a little over a month ago. Today, Ben Burrows over at Collect Media. Fanatics enters the repack market with Insta-Rips. And it is what we thought it was going to be. If you were ever questioning how profitable and how much money there must be to be made in the repack market, look no further than Fanatics entering the space. Essentially, to just put this at a very high level, they are doing their twist on Arena Club and Courtyard IO. The Courtyard IO is the thing that you've probably seen all over social media, where you buy a pack, digital pack, open it up, get a card, physical card, on the screen that is yours. You could choose to have that card, or it will immediately offer you money to sell it back to them. Arena Club, basically the same thing, works slightly differently. This is essentially the same thing and also works, just, they have their own little twist on it. Essentially, this is their version of a repack for Fanatics Live sellers. It is, a proper repack, like the ones that you see, we won't mention them by name, big time whatnot streamers with their high heats and flamethrowers and venom bombs and all that sort of nonsense. That sounds like basically walk down the energy drink aisle and then slap that name on a pack of cards. Those are pain in the butt to put together. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts involved to put one of those together. I have to imagine you have to buy it, you have to send it to someone, they have to box it all up, they have to ship it out to the breakers. Fanatics is cutting out a lot of that. Essentially, the way that I understand it, you will buy into a repack, a break, buy an individual, however, they probably all of the above. It sounds like there's going to be a bunch of different versions of this once it's all flushed out. And you'll buy into it with a breaker. Sounds like the breaker will digitally open the pack for you. The card that you hit will instantly go into your Fanatics Collect vault. And then you have the option to do whatever you want with it. Whether that's sell it on Fanatics Collect. I am sure eventually, if not initially, there will be some sort of maybe instant buyback offer. You could have the card shipped home. You could do whatever you want with it, but they cut out all the nonsense. If a repack buyer buys a stack of slabs, they just ship it all to the Fanatics Collect vault, and someone on that side does all the nonsense. Then they don't have to package it up and send it to the breaker, and then the breaker doesn't have to ship it to you. It all just stays at the vault, and you digitally open the pack, it stays at the vault, and then you choose what to do with it from there. It cuts out a bunch of steps. Super smart. Super smart. When you just look at this from a pure business standpoint, my God, is this whole entire thing genius. The repack game in general is genius. This takes it to a whole nother level of genius. The cards, there is a blurb in here about where they're sourcing cards from. They said they've had teams of buyers out at shows for months. So if you sold to a repacker, there's a chance you may have sold to Fanatics. They are also getting them, no shock here. Remember that whole PSA offers thing that rolled around a couple of months ago, and PSA had select group of buyers purchasing cards from them? Guess who one of them is? Fanatics. Also, and I don't know this for sure, but I think we can make a pretty good assumption here. Let's walk down this path for a minute. Fanatics Collect, formerly PWCC. PWCC was, they were an auction company, a vault storage, and they got in financial distress. Why? One of the many reasons was they gave out loans on cards. And people said, I'm not paying that back when the market tanked. Thanks for the money. You're stuck with the cards. I have to imagine when Fanatics purchased PWCC and took it over and rejiggered it into Fanatics Collect, they had a bunch of old inventory laying around that was PWCC's property because people that took loans out on cards left them behind. What's a really great way to move a bunch of that stuff? Repacks. I have a sneaking suspicion they have a lot of leftover dead inventory from the PWCC acquisition. I do not know that for sure, but I have an inkling it is a lot. And that is probably also where a decent chunk of these cards are coming from. Imagine some of the cool chasers that they would have for repack products laying around from the old PWCC inventory that people left for dead. So they're getting them from PSA, they're getting them from the traditional card show angle, and probably also dead inventory from PWCC to kind of initially get this thing up and running. It's genius. It's absolutely genius. I cannot say it enough from a business standpoint. Now they get to reap the rewards of the repack. How many repacks were being sold on Fanatics Live? They're not a stupid company. They're looking around the room going, holy heck, the Voldemort of breakers, he who shall not be named, is making money, and a ton of them are hand over fist selling repacks. They don't even need us. Some breakers don't even need allocation because they could just sell the repacks and make a ton of money just from doing that. They don't even need a box of Topps Chrome baseball. We got to fix this. How do you fix it? Make your own. And then on top of it, they have all the integrations with Fanatics Collect, Fanatics Live. They have their industry connections to buy. They get to inject liquidity into the market by buying singles, keeping things propped up. In the meantime, flipping those for a profit on the back end. They are essentially we talk about ecosystems around here all the time. They're essentially trying to create their own self-made ecosystem, and guess what? It's gonna work. I don't like repacks. They're not for me. I have never bought into a repack. I have no plans to buy into a repack. I would rather just buy the card that I want in most cases, or I'm old school. I'd rather just buy a box of cards and rip it myself if I'm going to degen gamble on something versus a pull of the slot machine with a repack. If that's your thing, that's your thing. The one thing I will say, and they do talk about this extensively in here, and I have a feeling they will be very on top of this because they know Nick Bell, the CEO, I believe, of Fanatics Live, talks about this extensively in this piece by Ben Burrows. They know repacks are under the crosshairs. They know people are all over these things. So I have a feeling they are going to go out of their way to make sure that they are above board as they could possibly be. They are going to have checklists, it states, static and live checklists, it sounds like. Evolving checklists as things probably get bought. That's kind of how Arena Club does it. The way I understand it is, someone hits something and it immediately comes off the checklist and basically gets replaced with something else. I have a feeling this will be an evolving monster as time moves on. It'll probably start fairly simply. The initial one that they're doing is baseball only, and it's 1,000 cards. It's $250 for a pull of the handle. A rip of the pack. And the floor is $90 and the ceiling is like just under 4K, I believe. Yeah, right here. Floor value of 90, a ceiling value of 3,800, with a sale price of $250 each. The checklist, I guess, will be out later today. I am recording this on Tuesday, as this thing officially goes live Thursday afternoon. Like I said, genius. They now get to make the cards, put them onto the market. We buy them up, opening the packs, send them in the grading, circulating them around. They're now buying them back off of us, putting it in a repack, selling it again. We're hitting it in a repack, selling it back to them, putting it on Fanatics Collect to sell again. They're making the money on the front end. They're making the money on the back end. They're making their little percentage here, there, and everywhere. What a business model. That's probably a whole, we'll have to do another, I did one of those videos where we kind of followed the flow chart of the money and cards, probably about a year or so ago. I don't remember exactly when it was. I'm going to have to update it with this one. That might deserve an update video with this one, because I think it's a pretty good talking point right now. But if you ever doubted the power of the repack, it is now here. If Fanatics is getting into the game, that tells you how much money is probably in this for them. And like I said, there's side benefits as well. They get to keep money flowing through the ecosystem of cards. It gives them inventory for Fanatics Collect, as these cards are going to go into their collect ecosystem, their vault, to either buy or sell on there. Interesting times ahead. Like I said, this is pretty much what I thought it was going to be when we talked about this about a month and a half ago on the initial video with this. And here we are. We now live in a world where you can pay someone to open a digital pack of cards for you. What a time to be alive. Very curious for thoughts and comments on this one. I have a feeling they might be a little spicy. Catch boys and girls on the next one. Peace.